You guys ready to go to Flavortown?
Woo!
I am Hat Guy Fieri. Do you like what I just did there?
That was terrible.
It's like a Wheel of Fortune before and after.
Am I the only one watching Shark Week that saw Guy Fieri speaking of in with the Sharks, and I was cheering for the Sharks the whole time?
Oh God, I would have been too. But you know what? I've never watched Shark Week. It's like one of those things that happens every year that I just am like, I have to hear about it. I have no problem with sharks. I'm not anti-shark. I find them interesting. I just don't watch Shark Week. It's not my thing.
Well, I don't either. I'm married to a science teacher.
You're not like start. Anthony Jeselnik rooting for the Sharks?
I'd probably root for the Sharks. This is USfanTV. We don't normally talk about Flavortown or Sharks. We normally talk about soccer. I am Pat. He is Chris.
Welcome, everyone. I am Chris.
I am Ben Fast. Wait, no, I'm not. I'm TJ.
He is pro-rel advocate TJ. We have things to discuss tonight. Among them, there are players from North America heading in Bayern's direction. One of them's already there. And there are players from Borussia Dortmund playing in the United States. One of them did really well the other night. We're going to make way too big of a deal of that, I'm afraid.
Really has done well in both their games. I mean,
yes.
He's responsible for all 4 goals they've scored at this point.
He is. That's true. I wish that the games were reversed and we got to see the one in Chicago where he had 2 goals and
that would have been true.
An assist and a drawn penalty and a moment where a kid ran on the field and he had to deal with that off the using his wits and did well. Christian Pulisic had a fantastic couple of games. And I know these are preseason friendlies. I know they don't matter. I know Julian Green scored a hat trick in that same stadium, I believe, a couple of years ago. But it can't help but get pretty excited. And it is the first time, I believe, that we have started a Borussia Dortmund season with Pulisic there, where it was on our radar screen, where I didn't wonder about his playing time. I know he's locked in their plans. But this is not something that I'm worried about. So what do you guys think? Hunter is talking about your fiance, Chris. What do you guys think about Pulisic so far this U.S. tour?
Thanks, Hunter. She will be happy to know that you say that.
I guess. See, are we going to keep this one on the rails, or is this one?
It's probably going off.
It's already. It's pretty well off the rails.
What do we think so far? This was largely designed as a showcase moment for Pulisic. It's in front of the home crowd. Neither, in both instances, most of the players out there for both teams, all 3 teams, I guess you could say, have been fairly mediocre lineups. It's certainly not the teams they're going to field when their leagues take off in a few weeks. So in that regard, it's kind of set up for him to shine. On top of it, then it's also he's the hometown kid, so to speak.
The only question is why he didn't get to take the penalty at Soldier Field. I guess maybe he learned from just not. Looked like he kind of like told Götze, no, this is my country. This is my penalty. In Charlotte, I kind of wish he had done that at Soldier Field too. But by the way, it was nice meeting you, Ben, and of course Alex and his friends at Soldier Field.
Yeah, that was cool.
Thanks for coming up to us.
I don't see Alex viewing yet, so we can't tell him to go do his homework yet. So I guess I think Chris kind of hit the answer though. This is his showcase. These are reserve team, youth teams at best, because most of the top flight guys are kind of taking a break. They had a little bit of soccer they played earlier this summer, so I guess they get a little bit of a rest before they.
Yeah, Man City was basically dudes in blue shirts with Riyad Mahrez and
yeah.
Pep was the most famous person involved with Man City's roster the other night. Tells you something. Not like Pep isn't a superstar in his own right, but
I was going to say, you might say he was just the most famous person in the stadium that night.
He actually was the most famous person in the stadium that night. I'm pretty sure of that actually. So
Which, usually isn't the case for him. I mean,
No.
he's up there. He's up there. But most of the teams that he's coached, he is not the most famous person by any means. Even when he was in Barcelona with his history there.
I don't know. Although with Man City, that's the one team where I start to think he might be the most famous person, though. Not that the guys they have aren't really good, but
true.
Down to a bigger name, Kevin De Bruyne.
He's getting there, but he's not more famous than Pep right now.
Yeah, certainly on a global scale, you're right. With City, that's kind of the lowest of his tenure or of his career anyway.
And Liverpool brought Karius, who I was fairly certain they would have dumped by now, but and clearly he's not going to be a starter now.
Maybe they still will.
Yeah, clearly he's at best their backup now, but I do feel bad for that guy.
They have a pretty full calendar coming up this year, so I mean, it's not like he's not going to get plenty of opportunities to play. Maybe they send him out on loan, but I think he's one you need to keep around. Just injuries happen, especially when you start getting around those Christmas fixtures and we get 50 games crammed into 1 week or whatever that the EPL does. So, especially coming off the World Cup the way it was, he's going to be he should be fresher, healthier. Hopefully, he doesn't have any post-concussion symptoms, and he can move on from there.
Christopher says he saw Pulisic today in Pittsburgh. It was cool seeing him last week at the little airport get together they had.
I was going to say, did you get his autograph? Because Pat's son and Alex at least got autographs and pictures and whatever.
I will say too, the two German teams that are here for the matches go out of their way to provide like awesome fan experiences and get fans involved. You don't see it as much. I mean, Bayern's like the king of it, and Dortmund does a great job too. You don't see it as much from the English teams. City did a little bit. They had a scrimmage that was there were some tickets available for, and they had the Premier League trophy in Chicago at least. But I think the German teams do, maybe because they're fighting an uphill battle because the English league is more popular here, but the German teams do a crazy good job at it, I think. So props to them.
Bayern seems to be the benchmark for doing
Bayern
it
is,
globally.
They're I mean, I met Schweinsteiger at a Chicago Fire match because of Bayern, not because of the Fire. So in part, it was Bayern pushing it. So, and Bayern brought the Champions League trophy here. I mean, it's amazing what they do. So
but Bayern is also, especially in about the last 3 or 4 years, making a huge push to take over the U.S. market as much as any international team can. And it seems like they're involved in everything, and they're continuing to do that. So I guess I'm really not surprised to see them be as accessible as they are.
I mean, their social media is the best, I think, in world football. But even 10 years ago, I mean, Chris will tell you that at that Bayern Man United game at Soldier Field, Bayern was throwing jerseys to the fans after the game, like authentic jerseys. I grabbed one. Yeah. So even then, they were doing cool stuff. But they've really stepped it up in the last few years, and they are kind of the benchmark. But Dortmund wasn't far behind, honestly. So it is cool. It's like I said on the last show. I said to TJ, the hoopla around the event and the stuff before the game is actually better than what you actually see on the field. When you're actually watching the game, it's kind of a letdown when it gets to that point.
That is true. It was, the atmosphere was much better beforehand than the actual game was itself. And I realized, I don't know the last time I've sat that far away from a sporting event.
And I think everybody on the field was happier for that.
We can only hope.
Well, I'm pretty certain of that. That
was my gift to them.
It's the most I've ever paid for a hot dog in my life. $7.50 for a hot dog, folks.
Was it $7.50 worth of hot dog?
It wasn't a bad hot dog. I'll give them that.
I mean, was it Portillo's level of hot dog worth?
No.
Okay.
No.
And those are only $3, so.
Yeah, we should get Portillo's to sponsor this show. I want Portillo's to sponsor. Like if Valspar runs out with the fire, I've always wanted Portillo's to jump in and sponsor their shirts.
Be interesting. It wouldn't be a bad sponsorship, but I don't see it happening. I don't think they're going to drop the million or 2 million, whatever.
I don't think it makes any business sense for them.
No, it makes none.
I just personally want a shirt that says Portillo's on the front of it. But yeah, Leipzig's here. We should point out he came like with a minute to go in the last show. We had discussed him in the last show too. I think we wrote him off. We said he was done with us. We said he was through. But he took a break from us for a while before and came back. So
and we've got Leipzig and Poonslayer tonight.
Yeah, I don't see anonymity here yet, though.
No,
he'll have some.
Get a dude to sponsor the show. That would be awesome. Of course, do you mean Edu or Adu? I think you mean Adu.
Ben, the $50 parking. Although I will say it's been $50 there for like.
Oh, it's been 60 before.
Yeah, it hasn't. That's not like it jumped to $50. It's been crazy expensive for a really long time there.
If you're going to Soldier Field, the best way is take the train in the city and walk the mile. You get the time to walk off your drunkenness if you're going back or you can just get back and drink on the trains. It makes no sense to park down at Soldier Field. I mean, honestly,
I like the tailgate. And we carpooled some friends.
It is true.
I like the tailgate. The north, the Waldron deck, the top of it. It's a great spot to tailgate. Yeah, so that was fun. What else do we have to talk about? Let's instead of having like a personal conversation amongst ourselves, maybe we could do a show.
Christopher says in Pennsylvania, everyone wants to be like Pulisic. That's good to hear. We like that. That's certainly a positive thing. So in that regard, good for him to play 2 more days from now.
Tomorrow?
I thought it was Thursday.
Mm-mm. I may still go. Right now, I'm not going, but I may still.
How are you going to pull this off?
It can be done. It's only 7 hours from here. We'll see. But again, I wouldn't be going for the product on the field. I'd be going for whatever happens before, and so probably not worth it. But yeah, I would say you had a kid run on the field when Pulisic was doing an interview with you. If you haven't seen that by now, it was amazing. The security guy tried to manhandle the kid, which I will say people are beating up on the security guard for it. You can't have people
to run on the field.
You can't have people running on the field.
What if
I don't know what he was
like trying like last Boy Scouting the scene or something, you know? What if this was actually something dangerous?
Right.
Like, there's a reason they respond the way they do.
I mean, he grabbed him. It looked bad. It was a bad image, like a terrified kid, and like the security guy was made to be the bad guy, but you can't have people running on the field. And what if he would have tackled him instead of, it probably wouldn't. He's wearing his shirt. He's a kid, so you can show some, common sense there. But the just destroying that guy for doing what he's supposed to do, I don't think is a good thing. That said, it's a kid, whatever. But it's Pulisic has reached the level of kids run on the field, risking, their, I won't say freedom because they're probably not going to throw a kid in jail or anything, but freedom. The kid probably got in some trouble for that. We'll say, all to try to meet the man. So and Pulisic handled it,
but he got a selfie.
Yeah, he handled it like a pro. It would have been Alex, honestly. If Alex didn't get the photo at the second event that he went to in Chicago, he probably would have run on the field at Soldier Field. That's just that's what I think. I don't know that to be true, but it's what I think. He wanted that selfie with Pulisic. And his wasn't even a selfie. It was like a beauty. I put it on the Twitter. It was a perfect shot, like the Bayern mural behind him, and he's standing there, and they're both in jerseys.
Bayern,
not Bayern. I'm an idiot. Dortmund.
Well, we know you're an idiot.
Yeah. We haven't talked about Alphonso Davies, but that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
No.
We don't normally like to talk about Canadians on this show.
That's what's crazy about it to me.
Well, if you've watched him play, the raw skills are there. The kid has got some serious talent.
Yeah.
No, so it to me in that sense.
For a Canadian.
No, he'd be pretty good for an American too. Now, my question is the transfer fee is it $15 million in Canadian dollars or is it $15 million or whatever in US dollars? I mean, do we lose something with the exchange?
$15 million dues or?
That's Australian. Yeah.
And
can add
but
that in too.
It's the largest transfer for any MLS player. Is that what I'm hearing with that one?
Yes. And I don't think that he steps in and plays in January, but I also think he's pretty damn good. So it's not like it's not cool to see. And this comes on the heels of this Chris Richards thing where he goes from FC Dallas's DA team to FC Dallas's youth team to Bayern's youth team to playing 30 minutes against PSG in like the course of 2 weeks, which was crazy. It shows how fast these things can happen. And you know, good for him. I didn't know
you
Chris
get the
Richards'
chance
name
and you
like a few weeks ago, and now I know that he's a guy who's wearing a Bayern shirt. So
you get the chance, you take advantage of it, and you keep getting more chances. You know, it does make you wonder to some extent, as we've talked about in the past, even if more players get more opportunities, do we find that we actually have better talent than we've always thought?
Poonslayer was saying he thought it was 12. It's 13 million with add-ons. It can reach 19 million. So,
wow,
yeah, it's pretty solid according to the Athletic. So we'll give them credit where credit is due.
And that goes back into the fund to push down soccer in the U.S. and build up the NFL, right?
Well, yeah, because we do need Donald Trump to step in and help out with that.
Oh yeah. Not a lunatic at all.
Pro rel or we all die. Christopher asks what our opinion of the NCAA is and its effect on pro players. He's playing at Penn State this year, and he says that coaches are trying to push kids to go pro. But what are our thoughts? The NCAA is a great place if you don't have another option. I mean, you know, it's not like we're going to say that it sucks to have extended competition. The big problem that college faces is the limited number of games and the limited number of practice time. You know, that because those things are so closely regulated, there's just not the opportunity for growth that like professional playing has.
Yeah,
if you can sign a deal at 17 or earlier, then sure, you know, that's awesome, and it probably is, at least in terms of like, you know, farther projection, better for you. But at the same time, it's still a level of greater intensity than you would otherwise get. So it's not like we don't like college. I mean, I think we've all of us have watched at least some college soccer. You know, it's not like we just completely ignore it because it doesn't matter. You know, we still follow it some. It's just that when the opportunity's there at a younger age to play even more games, it's beneficial. You know, there's a reason that the women have been the best team in the world, and it's largely to do with the NCAA. Now, as the rest of the world embraces a professional culture for women too, the NCAA is losing its strength, cachet, role there. But so, you know, I understand why they're pushing, people would push kids to go pro. The problem is not everybody's ready to do it at 16, 17, 18.
But let me ask both of you a question. And this is probably more for Pat, because with the way your son, I've seen the videos of him playing, he's got some definite talent. If it comes down to it, signing a contract at 16 or 17 to maybe pay the bills or a chance to get college 3/4 paid for, which one are you going to push him towards?
I mean,
is that easy of a question to answer?
It depends on a million different factors, how the offer felt or whatever. But all things considered, if he does turn out to be a great player, I would push him toward Europe. If he's just a solid player who I would push him toward a free education. But there's so many different factors that go into it. I know that when like Pulisic went to Europe and visited a few teams, they I think his dad said they got a really good feeling from Dortmund. And so I think a lot of that comes down to, I mean, you know what the numbers are, you can weigh the decision, but it comes down to feel.
But,
I mean, we're in a position too where I can pay for his college if he goes over there for 3 or 4 years and fails and still wants to get a degree. I mean, that's not like it's make or break. So, I don't know. I hope I'm in that position for him in a few years, but it'll be
now
maybe it'll be different by then too.
We talk about Pulisic and saying how everybody should try to be a Pulisic, which it's ideal. No question about it. But how much does Pulisic benefit because of just the knowledge base of his father being as involved with coaching at the top levels? Yeah. I mean, that most people don't have.
My son won't be able to get a European passport. So that's another thing where he'd have to wait like Josh Sargent did, or a lot of other guys until he's 18. So in Pulisic, it was more.
Why are you not working on getting his Cypriot citizenship now?
I think I've joked about that on the show before. That's the
way to go. You go through Cyprus,
Malta or Cyprus, right? So Holden says, "Would I push my son toward MLS?" Again, it's.
That's I look at some of these as an unfair question because there's a long time between when you could be playing in MLS and say like Finn's age now or something.
Right.
There's a great opportunity for change to occur.
Right. Finn's 10 years away from any of this. So I mean, we maybe 8 years when we would. And that's if he's still. I mean, he's amazing now, but. Who's to say he hates soccer in 8 years? I don't know. But
I was throwing the question at you because I was more curious because Charlie's only a couple years behind, and I know how much Charlie loves playing. I'm like, so I thought it was just a good question for honestly between you and I to talk about it because we're both in kind of the similar circumstances with, with how much they play and they enjoy playing yeah, let's face. I mean, Chris, you brought up the point though. MLS now versus 10 years from now, they aren't going to look the same. I think what we're starting to see now with things like what new NYCFC has built, Atlanta FC or Atlanta United's built down there, Real Salt Lake built this year with these training centers and all that. So now let's take it to the next step. I mean, when we start getting there, MLS isn't going to look the same as it does now. Let's face it for what it is. And that may be a more viable option at that point. The academies might actually matter a lot more instead of seeing, I believe the Fire Academy's team I've heard is decent, but nothing special. They go get their butts handed to them by good sides in Chicago still.
So, yeah, I mean their DA team was, I think, one of the age groups was second or third in the Midwest, so they're not bad. And I believe they brought in some people that have hopefully helped improve them. But yeah, there's lots of ways to go with it. So I don't know. We shall see.
Cisco wants to introduce Pro Reg. I assume he's talking about. You got to be talking about Reggie White, Reggie Lewis. Wait, they're both dead.
Both dead.
Both dead.
Yeah. We what we need to talk about is Kellen Acosta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
A year ago, he was at the Azteca, starting for the U.S., and now he's being shipped off as surplus from FC Dallas to Colorado
to play for the Sea Rapids.
Yeah, this is a guy that Bobby Warshaw, when he was on our show, said had a higher ceiling than Christian Pulisic. And I don't know that that's true anymore, but I'm still not. I'm not selling him short. I still think he could be a great player. So it just seems odd. Like he gets hurt and he comes back and he gets subbed out and his place is kind of gone and then he's gone. He was like the shining star that they brought through their system and now he's gone. It happened awfully quick too. So
didn't he try to push his way to Turkey last year? Is that him?
I don't know.
He was, I don't know if this was specifically Turkey. He was definitely angling for a move away last season. And it is possible that was that's kind of part of what happened. I mean, the injury delay he was out longer than expected, and then it was one of those where, hey, guys came in and they were playing well. They don't need you anymore. It's always a risk when you get hurt that your team finds somebody else. Then maybe he kind of had a falling out with Pareja, that something, maybe there's a little bit of an attitude there, because he definitely wanted to move, and I think he was particularly upset that it didn't happen, because that was the time for it. And now, I mean, on the one hand, he's got the fact that you would assume the team will somewhat be built around him. But at the same time, he's got 2 years, I think, left on his contract.
I think he's out of there before that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my point was going to be, is he playing for a good enough team that he gets noticed no matter what? The one, it's not always terrible to play for a bad team, because, hey, sometimes that means you become the star and everything focuses on you, and it makes you look better. On the other hand, if you're a crappy team and things look bad, it can sometimes get blamed on you too. And, when he's got 2 years on a contract that maybe he's unhappy with, does this sort of stunt some of his growth?
Okay. And Ryan pointed out that it was Fabian Castillo that was the one that basically bullied his way to Turkey over the last in the winter last year from Dallas. Acosta will be interesting. I mean, is he going to fall into Kevin Love syndrome? A good player on a bad team where his numbers are amazing, that he looks better than he is because everybody else around him is hot garbage, or is he going to raise up everybody around him? I mean, that's kind of the question that we're going to face with him. I agree with you though, Chris. I think it's survive the year and then Dallas and then Colorado cash in when he goes to Europe. Somebody in Europe's still going to want. He's 23. He's obviously got some talent that he's started in the center of the park for the U.S. national team. I get it. Not a good version of the U.S. national team, but he did start for the U.S. national team. And I would assume somebody in Holland, maybe the Bundesliga too, somebody looks at him and gives him a shot. So I think Colorado is making the move because, well, they're hot garbage, so that it can't hurt them any. And if nothing else, they'll get the money when he transfers.
Well, so half the transfer fee goes back to Dallas too. Like, Dallas got a sweet deal on this.
Well, that seems to be the new way of doing business with MLS. Because when the Fire, I know, with David Accam, when he went to Philadelphia, specifically, it was written into the deal as to, like, each year it drops to how much that the Fire get back for if he does go to Europe. So not a bad deal if you're Dallas in that sense.
Yeah. Does he see? I assume I saw the comment go by. Does he see the national?
I think so.
Does he play for the national team again? I assume that's. I missed some of the things that were being said, so I'm going to assume that's still Acosta that we're talking about there.
Yeah.
Or whoever it was. He certainly still has the opportunity. We've seen an awful lot of guys get called up, specifically young guys, over the last 9 months, whatever it is. And, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for games over the next 2 years before kind of really qualification starts and it starts to really mean something.
And the one thing I will say is I'm guessing the net will be cast relatively wide in terms of opportunities. And let's face it, even though he's only 23, compared to some of these guys, this is a veteran. This is a guy who's gone through the wars of CONCACAF. So when some of these guys, these younger kids that haven't gotten the absolute crap beaten out of them by Trinidad and Tobago and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, when all they do is just hack the crap out of you, he might be a good resource in terms of how to, well, at least what not to do based on how the last set of qualification went. But at least learning, what to expect with these type of things. Like, hey, all they're going to do is hack the crap out of you, kind of, you can't react, or this be prepared for garbage refereeing, be prepared for what kind of things to be prepared for with some of these guys when they come from these great teams and turn around and have to go to Honduras, Guatemala, for
Well,
El Salvador, for qualifiers into areas that are nothing like what they're used to.
And figure there's going to be a Gold Cup coming up and Olympic qualification soon. So there's going to be a lot of games to be played by a lot of young players. You know, he technically, I would think by next summer would be over age for the Olympics, and probably not one of the. Can they still bring in like 3 over age?
It's 2 or 3, something like that. Yeah.
But I would assume he wouldn't be one of those who would get called up, but at least as it stands right now. But you know, so maybe he falls into that Gold Cup group.
But most of the current group of guys we call the men's national team can play in that Olympics, which is going to be awesome.
Hopefully, we're actually going to play in an Olympics.
You got to get there first. Yes.
Yeah.
True. I saw something pass through the chat a little bit ago, and I thought it was a good point to bring or thing to bring up between now and then. Zach Steffen and turning down the move to Bristol. I wasn't in our text back and forth, so I'm just like, ooh, we forgot to bring that one up. Good move, bad move. What do you guys think?
Interesting.
Kiko, thank you. More like Josie out the door.
I assume it was probably more about actual game time, that he felt like he's in a secure spot here.
Mm-hmm.
Did he turn it down, or did the club turn? I thought the club turned it down.
Oh, maybe the club did.
The club did, but I wonder if he wasn't. Maybe they would have let him go if he was really pushed harder enough for it. I don't know.
Can he get a work permit? That's the first question.
Probably.
That's certainly. I mean,
he doesn't have enough caps, right, to get it that way.
And I was going to bring that up again
a top 50 team still, or no?
About Acosta too. Yeah. That, you know, if it's the Netherlands, sure, but.
We're talking. I mean, this is
a number of other
Bristol.
places. Yeah, it's. I know, but I mean, I was going to bring it up about Acosta too. That like, there are certain places he still probably can't get a work permit, and that may be a problem for. I would think it would be a problem for Steffen right now.
I think Alex is right. I mean,
there's the chance that the U.S. can say, he's in our plans. He's going to play a lot more, and you can have it reviewed, and you can get a pass often because the team's committed to you. But maybe that works for Steffen. I don't know. I mean, I guess in this case it doesn't matter, but
it's not a big enough move, I don't think. I think he thinks that he can do better, and we'll see. So
well, and if Columbus turned down saying that's not enough money, I think that tells you what you think of him, and I don't necessarily think they're wrong. I do think he's still going on an upward trend. I
think Austin will step up next season and take him, if anything.
USL Austin, we're talking about, right? The one that's playing at the
Austin Crew
of the Americas.
Austin Crew.
Austin Crew.
I hope not. Columbus needs to be in Columbus.
Ryan says Jesse Gonzalez is the future. It's not a bit. I will say, considering the number 1 and number 2 previously were my age. I think it's nice to see that there are some options. There are some options that are at a younger age, between Gonzalez and Zach Steffen, that there's quality that's that young. But isn't it kind of scary when you start thinking about it? How much of a Tim Howard's older than Dirt, and so.
I mean, there's not only a gap there, but there was a gap.
Only a couple years younger.
There was a gap in field players too for a long time for us.
Yeah, I mean, there really is a huge gap in quality. There's nobody in that. Robles maybe. Ramondo's on the wrong side of 35, I think, at this point, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, gotta be.
I mean, he's got to be like 600 years old too. I mean, but when you start looking
he's
at
effectively the same age as Howard, isn't he?
Right. Well, I don't think. Yeah. I mean, Howard's 60. Howard's 60. I mean, it's just other than Robles, is there really anybody in that you'd sit there and go, hey, he could play for Stephen Fry? Really?
Reggae boys, don't get TJ started on Sean Johnson. I like Sean Johnson, by the way.
Sean Johnson's a fine shot stopper. He reads the game about as well as as my 3-year-old reads books at this point. That's all. We can move on.
Simon, TJ's going to let Simon have it.
Unrelated to the U.S., but
yeah, we haven't discussed that. It's interesting. They say he's retired. He just says he won't play again so long as he feels this way. So he hasn't actually said he's quit international play. He's just said he's not going to play so long as he feels this way. So he did. I mean, if you really examine what he said, he has kind of left an opening that he could come back.
And his claim of racism, I mean, there's no doubt that there's no doubt he's dealt with some racists. I mean, I'm sure. But is it largely racism that's driving the negative opinions about Özil? And I will say, I know it isn't with Arsenal fans. And I mean, it's Arsenal fans jumping to the rescue on social media now and saying, we love you, Özil. Sorry, Germany hates you. But Arsenal fans have said the same stuff about Özil on the field. So that he disappears, that he doesn't fight for the ball, that,
okay, the racism is there. I'm not going to sit there and question.
To some degree, sure. Yeah, it has to be.
But how much, I want to say, in some senses, how much of it is self-inflicted? You go take a picture with the president of Turkey, who's considered one of the more vile leaders. I mean,
it was stupid, yes, but look at the position he's in. If he doesn't take a picture with that guy, he doesn't go back to Turkey. Like, what's the guy in the NBA who's been outspoken against him, and then he can't go back to Turkey? If Özil says, nah, we're not going to do that, and starts to shit on him a little bit, I know Özil likes to go. I think he and his fiance are both Turkish. I know he likes to go to Turkey sometimes. I think that would maybe close that door. Maybe he wouldn't. I think maybe he felt it was stupid, but maybe he felt pressured into it is the only thing I can think. And I can't see how that tore the team apart and caused them to lose in the group stage. It seems like, Thomas Muller wasn't good either.
Yeah, to me, there's
lots of people who weren't good.
That's not what I can't believe that would upset team chemistry. There's lots of other things that could, but how often do politics become a problem for players on a team? I mean, players often don't like their teammates, but they find a way to play together.
Hell, we do this show every week. I don't like you.
It's not to say Erdogan isn't a terrible leader. He's shutting down media. He's closing things off. He's not somebody. I mean, I think Germans are right to not like the guy, and Germany has a tie with Turkey, which is probably stronger than sort of like Chicago with Poland. It's like everybody there is if there's a group of people that's there that's bigger than anyone else, it's Turks in Germany. So, but yeah, I don't know if. I don't think he was trying to make a political statement. I think he was just like, yeah, whatever, we'll take a photo. I think I kind of believe what he said on that point. It's just, it's the president of my country. I don't think he put enough thought into it. But I also don't think that that's what tore the German national team apart. I can't.
No, I don't. I don't think it's necessarily what tore the national team apart. There were a whole lot of things that had to go bad for that to happen. That just didn't help matters any with some of the other things he did over the course of the World Cup. It was something that didn't need to be. It just gave the people who didn't like him another reason to not like him, I guess, would be. And then they become more outspoken because they can say, who don't like him, hey, I don't like you specifically because of this, even though there's more to it than that. But that just seems to be, kind of makes it easier. So
is it easier for you doing the show, TJ, without children climbing all over you?
It's irrelevant.
If you go back and watch that show, and I don't know why you would, but if you do, you'll notice TJ hitting the mute on his headset quite often and then turning and shouting.
How do you know I was shouting? It was muted. You didn't hear it.
Let me show you. I got to keep myself up on the screen. It looks kind of like that. I'm familiar with that as a father myself.
Well, Actually, I think that show is worth watching just because if you want to see me take down supporters groups, start about 29 minutes and then watch me ramble about supporters groups. And that was a pretty good takedown, although I think I can do better than that. But Chris, it was disappointing. I actually was sad you weren't there because you probably would have agreed with all of it. If you go back and watch it, we could use the views anyway. So
yeah,
29
definitely.
minutes.
Sorry, I was sick. Everyone, so I did not attend.
Yet I saw him the very next day.
Chris,
I forced myself to go.
When
I did cough so hard on Saturday that I messed my back up.
When you're cooking things that are green,
not just technology
that shouldn't be. Chris, when you're cooking things that are green that shouldn't be, don't. Okay.
It was a cold. Thank you. Somebody asked why hasn't Gundogan faced the same kind of heat?
Because he's not as important of a player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He
did the same thing.
If he was the the number 10 on the team, if he was considered one of the best players in the world, he'd be the one facing all this. But that's what Ozil gets. That's the price of being one of the top players. I thought I saw another comment, but I don't remember what it is now. A couple other things that we should touch on. That was a good transition there. Osorio out in Mexico. So, what do we think?
I think he wants the Colombia job. That's what I think.
It would certainly make sense, but
I would take him.
He's not coming here. He's not coming here.
I don't think that anyone who's stepped down from kind of so publicly, he was making it clear that he wasn't staying with Mexico in advance of kind of the opportunity, I think, for U.S. Soccer to truly have talked to him. I don't think he could have been doing it with the intention of coming here.
And a larger point, we're all in agreement. I think that we're okay with there not being a coach right now. But at what point are we a little bit nervous that there's not a coach? Is it September?
We'll have a GM in a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ernie Stewart starts on August 1st, I believe it is. So hopefully that is kind of the first bit of business. I mean, I don't care right now because, like we've talked about for the last 9 months, we don't have any real meaningful games coming up. That said, we do have some games coming up, and you would like to start setting some kind of foundation because now we are into it's less than a year until we have actual games that matter. So you do want to see something.
You're talking. Are we talking about Olympic qualifiers that matter?
I'm thinking Olympic qualifiers, Gold Cup.
Really? The Gold Cup matters?
I mean, it counts.
Does
it matter to me? Of course not. But
it matters to us only in the sense it gives us something to talk about.
It gives us something to talk about. It's a game to watch. It is an official game.
I would go a step above to say I would like the U.S. to win it. It made me happy when we won it. But if I could trade that for a World Cup qualification, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But
it made us happy to win it. It made us happy when they won it because things with the World Cup qualifying campaign were already pretty dismal at that point. So I think we were grasping for straws a little bit there, gentlemen.
Oh God, Alexi Lalas wants the job. Yeah, no. Life success. Ben Fast should be manager. he and Alexi Lalas can work together on it.
Okay, so Robert,
he would only have players who have been promoted or relegated.
All right, so are you pro or are you rel? Pat,
I'm reg.
You're reg.
Yeah,
but you're still alive, so you can't be Reggie.
No, I'm not. I'm neither of the Reggies that you mentioned earlier in the show.
All right, so
Reggie Miller, perhaps. I'm more like Reggie Miller. I am alive.
So Robert did ask about the Ted Westerveld and Applebee's story, which I did actually look it up and I found it again. Chris, do you remember this at all?
No, what is this?
This goes back to February of 2016.
It's the stuff that only TJ knows.
because it's one of those that I thought was it was a Friday, so it made my day, and So in February 2016, MLS posted something about versus Liga MX, and there's history. Tinfoil Ted decides he would reply with MLS. If you took the CONCACAF Champions League seriously, you wouldn't run your league like a chain of Applebee's. You're an insult to club soccer. Applebee's, whatever intern was running it, decides to reply, "Whoa, we run our place pretty seriously, Ted. That's a red card for sure." And from then, everybody was piled on to Ted. So that's where Ted versus Applebee's comes in, and it was just an absolute takedown by corporate Applebee's Twitter feed to spank Ted on that one.
I like the fact that you made fun of a person who does social media for a major company as being an intern, with Chris sitting right there.
Well, Chris could have been the intern.
He's a strategist. I'll have you know.
Chris is a strategist? What does he strategize? Chris, explain.
It is a strategy of strategic
initiatives.
Initiatives that are strategic.
Yes.
So you're planning to plan? Is that what you're doing?
Yes, exactly.
Have we covered it?
We haven't discussed the women's team and the start of the Tournament of Nations in 2 days. We probably should touch on that. They are playing Japan, I believe it is, on Thursday. They've actually brought a pretty strong roster. I mean, it's 11 of the players from the last World Cup. So you'd think they are trying to win this one.
They brought in the 700 Club girl for a little bit, and then
that they did.
Which I think was just
and then they hung up on her.
Let me. I saw the conspiracy theory today, and I thought it was almost Chris worthy. I figured Chris would be on this one first, but basically they think they brought her in so if she ever claims that because her appearance on the 700 Club and her outspokenness, if she ever comes back and said, "I can't get a job with the national team anymore," and tries to take legal action, they can say, "Well, look, we brought you back in."
I think that's true.
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Like when they made the men play on turf in Chattanooga.
Correct, and that was the other theory put right with it, was when they had him play on. Now,
if it's not true, it wouldn't be a terrible idea.
Is Megan Rapinoe wearing the captain's band these days? Or close to it?
Yeah,
she should be,
she's one of the leaders of the team.
Right. So if you're talking about team chemistry, let's have a gay-hating person on the team.
There's no other reason. She's not even good enough. I can't even remember the woman's name who was on the 700 Club. She's not good enough to be on the team. There's no reason to bring her in.
Well, no, she apparently where they're at right back, they're like every other team in the world, and they suck at right back, and she's been pretty good this year from everything I've read, but
is it worth, though, that level of disruption? I mean, I don't know.
You would think that, like I said before, teams play all the time with players who don't like each other. And I could see where they'd find a way to get past this if, I don't know, she was Carly Lloyd. But
Hope Solo?
I almost said Hope Solo, but I decided to go less controversial.
Well, I just mean, actually, when you think about it, Hope Solo from the Olympics over to the World Cup, I mean, that's legit. That's aside from the insanity and the drunkenness and whatever.
Oh, I mean, to some extent, she's a perfect example of someone who, she may have been a pain in the ass as a teammate, but she was a great player, so they found a way to work her in. They found a way to kind of overlook the fact that, oh, she's a pain in the ass. We don't like dealing with her. Her attitude causes problems. The things that come out of her mouth just get in the way and upset people. But, when you can back it up, people kind of let you get away with these things. Jaylene Hinkle is her name.
Yes, that's right.
When maybe you can't back it up, then, it starts to look at... I mean, this is one of those things... Like, I kind of left my point. What I was going to say before was, I mentioned how there are teams all the time who play with players who don't like each other. But there are certain things that when players are unhappy about, when it's an extremely personal thing, like say you hate the way you've spoken out that someone shouldn't have the rights to live the way they do, or say you screw someone's
wife,
spouse.
Yeah. Been
that
down that
kind
road.
of stuff can tear apart a team, as we may have seen in certain World Cups in the past. So, I definitely, whether or not she could say, oh, well, my personal beliefs kept me off the team, whether or not that's even, whether or not it's fair to do it, I could see where it's a logical thing to cut her out of there. Because in the end, it could become a problem, because you have other players who are gay, and she's saying they can't live this way. I mean, that becomes a severe problem for players on the team, and frankly, players who are better.
I was going to say,
you always cater to your best players. So
if the roles were reversed, would it be any different?
What do you mean if it was reversed?
If
she was awesome,
if she had the skill level of Megan Rapinoe, and Megan Rapinoe was a fringe player, for example,
I think it would be talked about more, because she'd be more of a household name. So maybe it would draw a little more heat, like on Twitter or something. But I think the team would find a way to overlook it.
There you go. Mix is on the show chiming in right now. He's pissed at Pulisic for taking his number, which I understand, Mix. I think that it was your number first, and you should still have it.
Am I the only one who thinks a mixed Discord reality show of just different countries he could play soccer in would be outstanding? Have him, do his year in Korea, then maybe go to Australia for a year, then South Africa. Just keep moving around the globe and let him see how he deals with the different cultures.
Knowing what I know about Mix, I'm not 100% sure it isn't Mix commenting on our show right now. But his writing was always weirder.
That would be awesome.
I miss him. I don't know if I don't follow him on Twitter anymore, or if he doesn't tweet as much. But remember when he would tweet poems and you'd try to you had to figure out, this is a guy who's fluent in English, so it wasn't a language issue.
Madness.
Yeah, it was not a language issue. It was just insane. I missed that about him. So,
will Dom Dwyer be considered for the Gold Cup? No.
No, he's done. He had the chance. He didn't show enough.
I think at this point he's running against guys like Josh Sargent, and they're looking at the future, and he's just too old.
I think Josie's back. No reaction, nothing. It was a joke, guys. It was a joke.
I don't know. Josie had a nice elbow the other night in the Fire game. I mean, he threw a nice elbow up to the head during that game.
Yeah, he throws a mean elbow.
So
score your goal. Yeah, I do also, Mike, wish that Kevin De Bruyne was American. Messi too. But yeah. No, I love Kevin De Bruyne. He's another guy that Jose Mourinho thought wasn't good enough.
I mean, and when he's not playing soccer, he's sixth in the line for the throne in England, right?
Sure looks like it. He just married the actress from Suits, or whatever that show was. All right, this is USfanTV. We have a website which we renewed for another year, so there you go. It's USfanTV.com. We also have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and go there and like them and whatever, and follow whatever you do on those sites. And we also have YouTube, and you probably figured that out by now because you're watching this. Subscribe, please, if you haven't, and tell your friends to do the same. And yeah, we'll probably do another show next week unless something happens later this week that warrants one. TJ, do you have any final words?
I don't think it's fair that Zach says we hate Snapchat. I don't think we hate Snapchat. We severely dislike Snapchat.
I hate Snapchat.
Chris has Snapchat, and TJ will give you the handle right now.
I don't know what it is. I'd have to look it up again, but come back to me at the end. We'll have that.
And Craigslist.
Terrence Boyd still plays soccer, and I think it's his sister who is in that movie Game Night, which is hilarious.
Yes, something like that. That and Steve Harvey's daughter being married to Memphis Depay are two of the weirdest soccer connections to celebrities that I know of.
TJ
Chris,
is in the Army.
He is currently in the Army.
Yep, TJ is going to be gone through August due to the thank you, Uncle Sam.
Through August. August is next week.
Yeah, August 4th
through the end of it.
4th through the 24th. I'm gone 3 weeks.
I may be going to a St. Louis FC game in about a week and a half.
You'll have to check in from there.
Yeah.
Your phone will explode in your hand though, and you won't.
Seeing as TJ's wearing a jersey for it.
Chris, do you have any final words?
No, you're done.
All right. We'll see you soon. Happy birthday, Rowan. Even though you don't watch, you are done.
Thanks, everybody.